I was going to translate, but as you can tell, I'm not that good at it. And I just feel that the Holy Spirit is just flowing, and I don't want nothing to cut that. So we're just going to let her speak. And if you don't understand, hermanas, yo iba a traducir en español, pero no quiero que nada corte lo que está pasando en el Espíritu Santo. So, si hay cosas que no entienden, por favor, intercede por los que sí entienden, porque el Señor va a hacer algo en las personas que están aquí. Amen. If you don't understand what's going on or whatever, intercede and start praying, because somebody, this word is for somebody. Amen. So if you don't grab it, somebody else will. So pray for the ones who are. Pray that God uses this person, and pray that the hearts will be open to receive what God is going to do right now. And so I believe that God is going to do something amazing more, because God is already moving, and it's just, like I said, getting better from here. Amen. So without further ado, I just want to say I'm so proud. My heart is completely overflowing. You just can't even imagine, because God answers prayer. Amen. How many know that God answers prayer? And mothers and aunts and grandmas, we pray for our children. We pray, and we know that God is doing something. And sometimes, even though it seems like it's impossible, but God says in His Word that there is nothing impossible for Him. And so we know this, amen. So if you're sitting, for ladies, it's okay, but everybody else, let's stand up, and we're going to receive who God has for us this morning. I'm going to invite my daughter Bianca to come. This is answered prayer. We prayed for a long time for her, and I know her family did. Her tia is here. Welcome. And thank you for being here. Her grandmas, I know Pastor Garcia has prayed so much. My mother-in-law, she's forever praying for her grandchildren. So this is answered prayer. Amen. So let's give glory to God first.
So I've never done this before, so I'm very nervous. But you all can go ahead and take a seat. I first want to thank God for even giving me this opportunity. First I want to thank the pastors. Let's give a round of applause for the pastors. I'm a little nervous. So I got my notes when I forgot my Bible, so we're just gonna go with it, alright? Let me introduce myself. My name is Bianca Zapata. I am Pastor Tim's daughter. So, like I said, I'm very nervous, so just bear with me. I make certain words that come up really fast, and bear with me. If y'all are confused, just say stop. Okay, let me see. I have like little points just to make sure I did it all. Okay, I introduced myself. I did that. I think Pastor Rachel did that. I'm just going to give you a little background about who I am just in my personal life. I am a teacher. I teach 7th grade English. It's a rough life. But this is my second year teaching, and then and then kind of like a background into like who I was growing up. So like I said, Pastor Tim is my dad, and I've been in the church literally my entire life. So I am a pastor's kid, and if anybody knows, anyone is a pastor's kid, or you hear like, oh, they're the bad ones, or something. But so you grow up with this pressure of to perform well, or to always be positive, and to always just be that perfect child or that perfect person because of who your parents are. So I had this whole idea of how I was going to talk to y'all about, because I'm not going to like preach or anything, because I love, I don't think that's what I'm called, but so I am just going to share my testimony, because even thinking about it, it is such a beautiful story of where God has got me here today. And so kind of the way that I'm going to explain my testimony is I'm going to know what I know best. And the way that I work as a person is through music. And music is my everyday life, and that's how I've kind of found my escape. When things got really rough, especially once I rededicated my life, I just know that I could turn to music and turn on worship music and everything would be okay. And even before this, I was talking to Pastor Rachel and I was getting really nervous. And I was like, hey, I need like 10 minutes to just listen to some music. So I went to like the back. I don't know, I hope I didn't bother anybody over there. They had a do not disturb sign and I think I disturbed them. And so I just turned, I didn't have headphones, so I just turned the volume up really loud and just kind of worshipped him here, there, and like by myself. And so that's kind of how I'm going to tell my testimony. Because like I said, I was trying to figure out, I had this great idea of how I wanted to talk to y'all, but I couldn't find the things like in between. I couldn't find the scriptures, I couldn't find the, like just how I wanted to put it all together. And while I was researching and all this stuff, I was listening to music. And this song came on. And I'm like listening to this song and I'm like, oh my God, that's, my whole testimony is in that song right there. And so, and when I'm in school, what we do is every Monday we have something called Music Mondays. And so we talk a lot about poetry, and songs are essentially poems. That's all they are, poems with music. And so what they do is, what we do in class is we take a song or a poem and then we basically analyze it. We go through every line and we break it down and we see what is it that the author really wanted us to know. And so that's kind of how I'm going to explain my journey, is through a song. And so this song is called Never Alone. It's by Tori Kelly and Kirk Franklin. I don't know if y'all have ever heard of it. Yes. But the words itself are very powerful and they're very true to who I am and to where I've come from. And so with that being said, my testimony, I believe, is in 3 parts. There is going to be my college experience part, my life after college, and then my life now. And I may get really emotional. I think I am now. I may get really emotional, and it's not emotional because I'm sad or because of just like a sad feeling. It's an emotional feeling because of where I am now. And y'all will see here in a minute that as I'm talking, like, I would not be here if it wasn't for God. Sorry. So what I was going to do is, just so that y'all can kind of have an idea of the way this is going to work, is I'm going to be reading the song like if I'm reading a poem, and then I'll be explaining part of the song and how that related to me and to my journey to, I call it like my journey to finding love. And so let me pull up the song. Whew, I'm nervous. I do this every single day in a classroom, but this is so different than anything I've ever done before. So for one child listening in my class, they're not. I'm not having to yell at y'all. Also, have you ever seen Friends and you know Chandler makes a lot of jokes when he's nervous? I'm Chandler. So if I make a joke, just please laugh. Okay. So, in poems, when they have like the verses, they're called stanzas. And so, I kind of broke it up into 3, well, I didn't break it up, she did. But she broke it up into 3 verses, and I broke it up into stanzas just to make it more relatable to what I can understand. And so the first one says, the first part says, in my time I've traveled some roads, a rolling stone, nowhere feels like home. I've seen people come, then they go. Life is just a story of some highs and some lows. And so part of that stuck out to me was nowhere feels like home. Growing up in the church, and I mean this with all respect, we especially as a pastor kid, we had to go to church. We didn't have a choice. It was you go to the church, you go Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Like, we went to a lot of church. And I'm not saying like it's a bad thing. I'm just saying like, we went to a lot of church, and we had to go. And it wasn't like, oh, Mom, can I stay and sleep? No, you can sleep in the car, and then we'll be good. Like, so I had to go to church. Then so that was just my whole life growing up. Then I went off to college, Gig and Maggie's. I'm a Aggie, and so I went to college. Thank you. I went to college 3 hours away. 3 hours away from my family, 3 hours away from home. And for me, it was a relief because I was 3 hours away from church. And I didn't go to church all throughout school. I went for 5 years because I couldn't pass math. So if you're in school now, like, just listen to your teachers. Never mind. So I moved away from church, and I was happy. I was like, I don't have to. I'm not forced to go anywhere. I can sleep in on Sunday. I can do whatever I want. I have no one's there. My parents aren't here. Like, I love you, Dad, but like my dad wasn't there, so I could do anything. And but then, as I was going through this motion of like school and going to classes and stuff, I just started thinking like, is God even real? And I went through this whole journey for a few years of going back and forth of like, is heaven real? Is hell real? How do I know? I don't know that. I don't know that. And I'm a person that needs to see it to believe it. And so, because of that, I didn't know if there was a heaven or a hell. I just kind of was like, okay, everybody talks, people die, and that's it. So then I started to doubt God, and I started to doubt what the whole world meant. I may get like kind of lost because I'm like talking in my head as I'm talking to y'all, and so I may get confused, so just bear with me. But so I got to this point where in the song she says, nowhere feels like home. Nowhere felt like home. I wasn't actually home. I wasn't, I was moving around every year in school, but like spiritually, there was no home for me. And I truly felt that, and I truly felt that there was no relationship between God and I, and there would never be a relationship, because I just didn't believe it. And I'm not saying that I, became like not a believer. Well, okay, I was not a believer. I no longer believed in God. I no longer believed in heaven. I no longer believed in hell. And to be honest, like I was very angry. I was very angry at God. I was angry because I felt like he took my dad away from me. And so I was just angry, and I was mad at him, like, why would you do that? Why would you take this man away from me and give him to other people and give him to a whole congregation? But what about me? And so I felt lost. And I just, like I said, I just didn't believe in it. I was very upset, and I was angry at my dad, and I was angry at God, and I just didn't understand why I was getting left out and left alone. So leaving Seguin, leaving San Antonio, I was so happy and so ready to just get out of here and try to figure out life on my own. And so there was that whole part of a few years of me just going back and forth of like, why am I by myself? Like, why did God take him away? Like, why am I alone? And I don't know where I belong. And so that kept going on. And then there's a part of the song that says, I've seen people come, then they go. Life is just a story of some highs and some lows. And we've all been through lows. Like, there's not one person in here that can say, oh, I've been like in this happy, high place my entire life. That is not true. We've all been in some lows, but we're in those lows for a reason. And how do you say this? Of course, then at this point, when these lows were happening, I didn't understand them. I was still blaming, like I was playing the victim. And I was like, why me, why me, why me? And I just wanted to explain some of those lows that I went through in college, part of my non-believing phase. And this, explaining these lows is going to make sense later towards the end. I promise. Because it sounds very dramatic, and a lot of these stories that I'm going to tell, a lot of people don't know. But there's a reason for me telling them, and like I said, I'll explain why I told them towards the end. But one low that I had, I was asleep in my room, and it was really, really late at night, and I hear, I hadn't cleaned my room. So there was a Whataburger bag on the floor. And I just hear like the crinkling of the Whataburger bag like in the middle of the night. So I was like, hey, that's weird. I'm in my room by myself. No one should be in here. And I wake up, and there's a guy standing over me. And that night I had gotten really sick, so I had taken a lot of medicine. So I was not, I wasn't understanding what was going on. This guy happened to look like my ex-boyfriend, so if you know who my ex-boyfriend is, and you'll know what I mean. Shout out to Markel. I'm just kidding. And so I didn't scream, I didn't say anything. I was just like, oh, okay, it's nothing. Thankfully, nothing happened, but just the fact that there was a guy in my room standing over me, not knowing what his intention was scary enough to just scare me. Turns out he had broken into like 3 other places in my neighborhood. He found out a lot of information about one of my roommates. We don't know how, and it was just this big ordeal. But thankfully nothing happened to me, but that was a very low time in my life. None of us stayed at our apartment. We stayed at other places for like 2 weeks. I was terrified to go to sleep. Every time I'd go to sleep, I'd start to have a panic attack, and I'd just freak out, and I just couldn't. I hated going to sleep because I didn't know if it was going to happen again. So that was just a low, but one thing I want to mention that what I'm realizing now is that I was never alone. I thought I was, but I wasn't. The name of the song, y'all didn't know. But yes, the second low that I had is very hard for me to talk about. Because I think I've only talked about it with one person, and I don't even think it's Gabby. And I tell her everything, I did struggle a lot with my mental health. I had a lot of anxiety, and if any of y'all have ever had a panic attack or anxiety attack, you can understand and y'all know exactly what that feels like and how scary it can be to not be able to breathe or to feel like all the air is suffocating you. So y'all can kind of picture what that feeling was like if you've had it. Well, for me, it was really bad. The doctor was just saying that there was just all of my chemicals in my brain were just all over the place. And if technically speaking, with anxiety attacks, your chemicals are imbalanced. That's what it is. Mine were just imbalanced, wasn't even a word to use. They were just all over the place. But it was to a point where I was having 3 panic attacks a day. Every single day, I'd have one anywhere. I wake up, I'd be in the car, anywhere. It was just 3 panic attacks a day. You can imagine what that would do on your body. You can imagine what that would do just to you as a person. You were scared to do anything. And so another low. I was driving in my car, and I had a really old car back then. People that know me know what car I'm talking about. And sometimes the air didn't work. But it was the summer, and you know how hot it gets in Texas. and with a car that had no working air conditioning, y'all can imagine how much of a struggle I was going through. But so I would crack all the windows all the way down as I drive so I can get some air and circulation. Well, at that time, my panic attacks were just constant. 3-4 times a day, every single day. I was just tired. I was sleeping a lot. My body was so done. And I just couldn't take it anymore. So I was in my car. It was really hot. And I started to have a panic attack right in the middle of the street. So I pulled over. And this is one of the lowest I had ever been.
Alabado tu santo nombre, Señor, aleluya.
I couldn't take it anymore. My body couldn't take it anymore.
Glorify the Lord.
So I pulled over into the hot sun. And I rolled up the windows. I was at a point where I just didn't want to live anymore.
Hallelujah, mi Señor, we thank you.
I just sat there, just letting it get hotter and hotter. And I was having a panic attack, and I'm taking out all the oxygen in the car. The devil almost got me. He was so close to taking my life. But my God saved me. Your God saved me. It was just too much to handle. And then the last low I experienced in my college career, it was last year, my senior year, and my ex and I our relationship was just going south, and it was just going, we were very close to breaking up. But I didn't know who to turn to. We just weren't talking. We just never talked to each other anymore. We lived together and we just didn't talk to each other. And so I turned to alcohol. And so my last year, so about 2 years ago, 2017, I would just go out, not even on the weekends. I would go out every single day. And every single day, I just get blacked out. Every single day. I would not know how I got there. I would not know how I got home. Literally, if you close your eyes and it's a black screen, that's all I would see every single day. And I found comfort in alcohol. And then, so that moved on. So that's the first part of my college experience, of all of these things that I went through, and these things broke me, literally broke me. I was terrified, I was scared to go to sleep. I'd be drinking 4 or 5 drinks, nothing would faze me if I was constantly drinking, and my immune system built up. And I was scared. A lot of the things that I went through in college scared me, and I was afraid. And let me backtrack to the whole car situation. What I went through to a lot of therapy. What I had realized is that every time I got a panic attack, it was every time that there's a potential that, or there was a possibility that I could die. So, you could literally die anywhere. It can happen in your home. It can happen when you walk out. It can happen in your car, which is why I had realized that I always got panic attacks in the car, because you can get in a car accident. You can be at school. And what I realized is that I was afraid to die because I didn't know where I'd go. I didn't know if I'd go to heaven. I didn't know if I'd go to hell. I didn't even know if it was real. And so I was scared for that moment. So I would have these panic attacks, and I didn't believe in it, so I didn't know what was going to happen to me. That's the first part of the song. Whew. Sorry. A little emotional there. So then the song goes on, tell me if you believe in miracles. I'm standing here before your eyes. And there's nothing I can say about that. That's literally all. I'm sorry, Tori, but if you don't believe in miracles, just look at me. That guy in my room, he could have done who knows what. You know, I could have taken my own life in my car. You know, I could have ended up blacked out drunk and, I don't know, got kidnapped. There's so many things that could have happened to me. But I'm a miracle because I'm here today.
Amen.
2 years later, So then they go into the chorus. It's just, I've cried many rivers. I've walked through some pain. I've seen my world crumble, and I carried the shame. I carried that a lot with me. Like I said, that car incident was a very low moment, and then I became angry at myself for letting me get to that point. And what I didn't do, though, was that I didn't turn to God, and I didn't realize that, you know, I really wasn't alone. And then the best part of the song, I think, says, but I know somebody, and he calls me his own, that I can hear heaven singing out, you're never alone. So there's that part. I'm not going to go much into the chorus, but then there's the second part, my life after college. This part's a little rough for me to talk about too, because just side note, when you're giving your testimony, you really are just, you're exposing everything you've been through, and that makes you very vulnerable. And so, exposing parts of my life that I'm very ashamed of is very hard, but the reason that I'm sharing is not for y'all to feel sorry for me, because I don't want y'all to feel sorry for anything that I've been through. There's people that have been through so much worse. But what I want you to understand at the very end is where I come from and what God put me through and then took me out of. So that's why I'm explaining all of these things that I've been through, because they were it was a lot. But like I keep saying, like, I'm here, and I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him. So the second part of the song, which is going to be the second part of my testimony, says, everybody wants to be king. We put all our hope inside material things. In your light, I now understand that everything I have ain't everything that I am. So there's a part that says, we put all our hope inside material things. You think of material things, you think of clothes, shoes, TVs, purses. That's material things. Well, after college, my ex and I broke up. I was with this guy for 8 years. A very long time. He never put a ring on it. I'm just kidding. But we ended up breaking up, and so I was with the guy for 8 years. I hadn't dated anybody else. So when we broke up, it's like, hey, I'm free. Let's go have some fun. And so when it says we put our hope in material things, I didn't buy clothes, I didn't buy shoes, I didn't buy purses. I put my hope in guys. And in men, or not men, they're guys, we're boys. But I put my hope in what they could give me physically. And so all of y'all, let me sit around. Kind of just gone over it. I promise it's not a lot. I just write really big. And so when I say I hope in a lot of men and they gave me things physically, I think y'all can understand what I mean without saying it. So, okay, let me backtrack. Well, all of y'all know who Mary Magdalene is, right? Yeah. You know, in the Bible, there's a million different things that she's been called, but they all come up with the same idea that she was this person that was very promiscuous. Let's say that word. So that is what I called my Mary Magdalene phase. She, like I said, there's a lot of different interpretations about who she was and like who she was in the Bible and all of those things. Like I said, very promiscuous. But that ended up becoming my identity. That's ended up becoming who I was. I was always the one making those promiscuous jokes. I was the one that was always finding hope with guys. I wasn't finding hope with them on like a monthly basis or finding hope. When I say finding hope, you know what I mean, right? I wasn't finding hope on a monthly basis or even a weekly basis. I was finding hope on a daily basis. And I was very lonely and I felt very empty and I thought that's what would fill my void. And then it just got worse because that's how people started seeing me. I was always a girl that was, you know, oh, who did you take home last night? Like, I was a girl that people were asking to, hey, like, why don't you go do it with him because he hadn't done it in a while. Like, that was my identity and that's who I became. And that just made me feel very low and very ugly. And I found no hope in that. I hated that that's how I was seen because when I got to a point where I wanted to start dating again, that's the only thing people came to me for. People only saw me as my body. They never saw me as my brain or my heart. And it was rough. It was rough to feel like I wasn't worth anything. But, and it actually wasn't until recently, at the church that I go to, the pastor gave a preaching on Mary Magdalene and like the whole alabaster box scene and everything. So he talked about that. And that part, I'm going to read a little piece of that scripture, if that's okay with you, to kind of explain like kind of the ending of that part. Oh wait, wrong part. Give me like 2 seconds. Okay, give me like 12. So when I tell that to my kids, they will start counting out loud. Yeah. I'm coming, I promise. Basically, I was tired of seeing myself as this person that guys only saw me for what I had to offer for my body. And so what I did was I realized that I had enough. And I realized that I'm more than this person. I'm more than what people were calling me. I'm more than what I thought of myself. And the one thing that I had forgotten is that he created me in his image. He didn't create me in my image or my dad's or the guys, you know, from down the street or the guys at the club. Like, it was his image, and that was something that I had forgotten. And so it was in about December when I had realized that, you know, I need a change in my life. Like, I'm tired of being this person that was thought of as the promiscuous girl of the group. Like, I was just tired of that feeling, and it just made you feel really ugly. Like, all of us, we're all very beautiful. We offer more than the physical. We offer a lot more, and I was just tired of feeling like I was not worth it. Anyway, so there's this, it's in Luke 7:47, and let me just kind of set the scene for you. I'm probably going to tell the story wrong, sorry. But long story short, Mary comes in to Jesus, and then they're at a house, and she basically she pours, or she's like pouring please correct me if I'm wrong, I'll probably wrong, like the perfume over his feet, and she's kissing him, and kissing his feet, and just, you know, kind of, I don't know if she was like paying her respects or something like that. Well, anyways, the other people, the guys that were at the house were telling Jesus, why are you letting her do this? Like, why are you allowing her to kiss you and kiss your feet and kiss your head and all of these things? And so, the part that really resonated with me is in, so basically Jesus, like, the reason that I did this was because, like, you didn't welcome me in your home when I came in, but she came in and she brought her most expensive, think of like the most expensive perfume, like Chanel, I don't know, and she's just going and like putting it, she just bought a brand new bottle and she's pouring it all over, you know, this guy's feet. And so anyways, they tell her, like, why are you letting her do this? Do you not know who she is? She's a person, you know, she's very promiscuous. And if you don't know that, well, like, you should. Because if you knew that what she did, if you knew her past, if you knew the amount of people that she hung around or messed around with, you would not be letting her touch your feet. That's pretty much what he was saying. I'm assuming. If I was there, I'm assuming that's what it's sounded like. But then God said, therefore I say to you, her sins, which are many. So I feel like God can be like really funny, a little sarcastic, but he's like, therefore I say to you, her sins, which are many, are forgiven, for she loved much. This part makes me emotional, because it says, but he who is forgiven little loves little. Then he said to her, your sins are forgiven. And when I was listening to the preaching and the pastor said that, he was like pointing, and he was like, your sins are forgiven. And it was at that moment I really felt like I was forgiven, and I really felt like everything that I had did to be a disgrace to God. Like, I'm a pastor's kid, but yet I'm being this promiscuous woman. But God said that you're forgiven, and like, if he can forgive me, he can forgive you, he can forgive, you know, your mom, your dad, your grandma, and grandpa. But the fact that he said that I was forgiven, and it's there in the text, like, if you don't believe me, you know, read it, pick up a Bible. I mean, you can get an app now, but you can check on your phone. But he said your sins are forgiven, and there's a part in the chorus where she said she carried the shame, and I carried the shame for so long. And it wasn't until that preaching that I was able to just leave it at the altar, and I was no longer that person, and I realized that I realized I'm a child of God, and being that, Rachel about this, and she said that's not, so you said it doesn't, there you go, it doesn't define who you are. And for once, after everything that I'd been to this moment, I realized that that's not who I was. I was more than what my body was. You know, I was my heart, I was my soul, I was my spirit, and I was my, you know, my brains. And at that point, I was forgiven. There's a part in the song that says, this is, in your light, I now understand that everything I have ain't everything who I am. Like I'm just saying, it's that whole song and just that moment when he was saying that you're forgiven, the pastor was saying that you're forgiven, that's when I kind of realized who I was in him. And realized it's funny that y'all have the scripture on the cups, Psalms 139, because that's what I have here in my notes. And I realized that I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. That's who I am. And that's who I am, and that's who God has called me to be, is fearfully, wonderfully Wonder Woman. And that's who I'm not. I'm not that girl that was in her bed about who knows what's gonna happen. Like, I'm not the person that was trying to commit suicide. I'm not this person that was constantly drinking all the time to get away from the pain, and I'm not this girl that goes to guys to find that emptiness. In that moment, I started going to God, and I started turning to Him. And so, once I started making that change in my mind and my spirit, I still wanted to find a guy. I still wanted to find someone that was gonna love me. And because us as girls, and if I'm, being real, we can say, like, we're these strong, independent women. Yes, we can do whatever we want on our own. But deep down, I know for me, I could be speaking for me, that love of somebody else that just loves you unconditionally, like, that want is still there for me. And so I was trying to look for that, but now I was trying to look, okay, now I want a godly man. So my idea of what a man should be started changing. My idea of who I was started changing, which kind of brings me to my last part of my testimony, was just me rededicating my life to God. So, in this past December, I texted my friend, and I was like, hey, like, I know you've been going to church. I'm looking for a specific kind of church. Very specific. If you know me, a church, I don't know how to say this. Very specific church with a very specific type of group of people. Just look at a picture of my ex and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But anyway, so I told him, hey, I'm looking for this type of church. Yeah, a specific color. And so I texted him and I was like, hey, I'm looking for this specific color at church. What do you recommend? And I told him, I was like, because I'm just trying to find a guy now. Like, I'm ready, like, I'm changing my life for God. Like, I'm excited. Like, let me start rededicating my life and find a man, a colorful man. So then he gave me two churches. He's like, it's these two. And so I was like, okay, cool. Let me look them up online. And I'm gonna be totally honest with you. The church that I'm going to now, the reason I went there is because I like their website. Like, that was it. They had a really cool website, so I was like, let me check it out. So I went in December. It was December right before, I want to say it was right before New Year's, because I remember it was like the next week they were going to have their New Year's service, and they were going to have a conference and all this stuff. Anyways, I went to church, rededicated my life to God, and it was a really good feeling, and I really felt this is where I needed to be. And the next couple weeks I was going to try the other church that my friend recommended, but there was something that kept pulling me in and pulling me back to this place. And, excuse me. And so, Let me read this last part of this song. So then she goes through the chorus again, cried many rivers, walked through some pain. I've seen my world crumble and I carried the shame. But I know somebody who calls me his own. I can hear heaven singing out, you're never alone. And this last part of the song, which relates to the last part of my journey, is what really sticks out to me, really sticks out to my life right now. And it says, oh, I may have took some time, but now I realize my imperfections were a part of your plan. And if all things work together in the end, the broken will be beautiful. And the part that I had really liked, it says that I may have took some time. It took a lot of time. But now I realize that everything that I went through was all part of your plan. And it was all of this stuff that I went through, like the lows in college, not giving myself to men, was all part of your plan. And that's really hard to try to understand. Like, why would you put me through almost wanting to commit suicide? Why would you put me through all of these things of getting blacked out drunk, not knowing where I'm going to go? Why would you put me through basically going through different guys trying to figure out my life? Why would you do that? Like, what was the point of that? Like, showing me a lesson? What's a lesson? I don't know. Like, I just didn't understand, but it's part of his plan. There was a scripture here and I kind of forgot it. Give me like 25 seconds this time. 12 wasn't enough. I write a lot of notes, so my stuff is everywhere. All I'm trying to say is that I just had to trust him, and I had to trust that there was a reason he put me through all those things. And what I also needed to learn is that he was the only one that could heal me, and he was the only one that could get me through all of those things. Like, I couldn't do it on my own, which kind of goes through the whole never alone thing, is that through every single trial that I had, I was never alone. I thought I was. I felt alone, but that's because I wasn't seeking him. He's always here. He never, ever leaves your side. And if that doesn't make you smile, then I don't know what will. But all those times, I never saw him because I didn't look for him. And then I realized, okay, like, I need to call on you. You're going to be here every single day of my life, but I need to call on you. And I need to show you that I want you and I need you in my life. And so that's kind of what I started doing, is I kind of started calling on him, and things in my life started changing. I started changing the music that I listened to. I realized that I loved being in his presence, and I was able to do that through music. And good thing is music I can take with me anywhere. So I'd always, like, I think they were saying earlier, like, you don't have to be in a church to feel him. Like, I can be in my car and no longer have an anxiety attack, but I can be in his presence. I can be in my room. There's times I'm even in my classroom. I'm getting my lesson together, and I'm there in his presence. And just that, it's just such a beautiful feeling to me. And like I said, like, I don't cry because I'm sad. I'm crying because there was a song that they were playing while they were praying for us, all of my cousins up here. And the song was playing and I kept crying because the song is exactly how I feel. His love is very overwhelming. And all I can do is cry and be overwhelmed in the best way possible. But what ended up happening is that I went to church to find a man. That was why I went to church. Was it right? Probably not. Sorry, Dad. But I went to church to find a man. And I was trying to find someone that would make me feel whole again. But I didn't realize that I'd be coming into the best relationship of my life. best, when I'm talking about father, I'm talking about with God. I had the best father, I had the best boyfriend, the best husband. And I didn't find church in a physical guy church, but I found a man in him, and he never left me. You know, he never said anything mean to me. He never made me feel like I wasn't worth it when every other person did. You know, he was just there for me, and I found love, and I fell in love with God, and it was such a beautiful feeling to find someone to fall in love with. And so once I was starting to fall in love with God, I was like, okay, like, how about, like, you know, a physical man to share that with? Like, can you do that for me? and so I ended up meeting two people who were very into church and very into God, and one of them wanted to be a youth pastor, and the other one, like, you know, really was constantly in his presence. And so I had shared this story with my dad and Pastor Rachel, and I was like, there's these two really, really amazing guys that love God more than anything. What do I do? I was like, I asked God for one, and He gave me two. and so I didn't know what to do, and so, you know, I like went on a date with one, and then I went on a date with another, and all of that happened. And then after, you know, not exploring my options, that sounds mean, but like after, like, you know, kind of going on dates, seeing which ones that I would feel I was more compatible with, I was like, this is perfect, like a guy for God, you know, what can happen? There's nothing better than this. But after all of that, I came home one night and I was like, this is not what I want. Like, I was very, very, very confused. I didn't understand how there can be two perfect guys that were in love with God more than anything, but my heart just wasn't desiring them at all. And I had called, I think, of my dad, and that night was the first time I heard God speak. And it wasn't like I couldn't like actually physically hear someone talking to me. It was just a feeling. And He told me to open up my Bible. I didn't have a Bible. and so I called my dad, and he handed it over to my stepmom, which is Pastor Rachel, and I was like, I don't know what to do. There's these two amazing guys. I'm confused. And something keeps telling me to open up my Bible, but one, I don't have one. And second, I don't even know what to look for. And I told her, I was like, I feel like such a hypocrite. Like, I'm a pastor's kid, and the only verse I know is John 3:16. like, oh, God created the heavens and the earth. Like, that's all I knew. And I was feeling really down on myself, and I kept telling them, like, I feel like there's something, or there's somewhere in the Bible that can relate to what I'm feeling right now, like just this confusion of not knowing what to do. And so I went to them, and I think there was something said earlier that it's okay to go to other people when you just don't know what to do. And I went to the people that I know that can help me the best, which, you know, were, you know, my parents and pastors and stuff. So we talked about a lot. It was like a good 2-hour conversation of me just crying and trying to figure out what to do with these two amazing guys that God had put in my life. Until I realized, like, you know, that's just not what His plan is for me. I thought that was His plan because they went to church. They, you know, they prayed that. They're great people, but that doesn't mean that they're great for me. And so I like moved on from that. But kind of circling everything back in. Let me see, where is that? I kind of lost my train of thought. I'm trying to be funny all the time. It's hard hard work. I'm just kidding. But yeah, I wanted to open my Bible, and that was when I heard him talk to me. And I wanted to hear it again. I wanted to have that feeling again of some guidance, something to do. And it was, I can't even explain it. Like, I have no idea how to explain the feeling of having a conversation with God. And a long time ago, I read a book called The Lipstick Gospel, and what that book basically tells you is that you don't have to be this vanilla Christian. You don't have to be this person that goes to church and then goes home and the whole point of being a Christian and God is your relationship with Him. And it doesn't matter what anybody says. What matters is the relationship that you have with Him. And so I took that with me. And the one thing is that I don't care where I'm at. All that matters is that I have that relationship. And having that conversation, God speaking to me really proved to me that the relationship was two-sided. Because sometimes you feel like you're talking and you're crying to God, but there's nothing happening. And there's a song in Spanish that I absolutely love. And the song says that there's times when, I'm paraphrasing, but when, hold on, I'm singing in Spanish. What the song is saying is that when you are, if God is silent, it's because He's working in your life. Yes. And no disrespect, but He was silent my entire life until this one moment. And I realized that my entire life, because He was working, and He was working and building me up to finally have that conversation with me, to be in a position where I was mature enough to have that conversation with Him. And because He would have had that conversation with me when I was younger, I wouldn't have understood. He would have had that conversation with me in college. I probably wouldn't even know what was going on. I just wasn't mature enough to handle that conversation. And then, like I said, He finally spoke to me, and I just wanted it more. And I kind of just fell deeper and deeper in love with God and my relationship. And like I said, it's been the best relationship that I've ever had. And side note, funny story, when I would talk to different guys, and I would kind of explain a little bit of my testimony. Yeah, I started going to church. I went to church looking for a guy, and I found the best relationship ever. And they go, oh, so what happened? Did he cheat on you? I was like, what are you talking about? You found the best relationship. How's that going? I was like, I'm talking about with God. Like, oh, okay, I'll talk to you later. I was like, bye. I don't need you anyway. But just that relationship with God, it was just a really beautiful thing. And then sorry, I'm rambling now. But this last part is also going to be really important, because just because I am now in this position where I feel something with God, and I feel that relationship. Now I feel it's that two-way street where He's talking to me and I'm talking back to Him. That does not exempt me from anything bad happening. If anything, it's going to get worse. Which brings me to the last part of this whole journey, is that, yes, I found peace and I found love in God. But what I did not understand is that it was going to come with a lot more hurt than I ever thought I could imagine. Right, the price. I didn't understand the price, but so, how do I say this? Let me read the last part of the song so I can kind of explain that part. If anybody knows who Kirk Franklin is, he's not that big, but that was funny. But anyways, Kirk Franklin is on this song with Tori Kelly, and there's a part where he sings and he says, "There's not a hole too deep that God's love is not deeper. You've come too far to give up now. Let's go." So part of that, you've come too far to give up now. What I realized is that my decision, me rededicating my life to God, was my decision. And that was really important to me. I was no longer having to go to church. I was no longer okay, you have to wake up. No, I wanted to go to church. And having to and wanting to are two very different things. And there was a conversation that I had with some of my cousins before that, I can say all of these things and I can tell you about how God's love was good to me, but it's not going to mean anything if it's not your decision. And that was kind of my whole thing, is that it was my decision to come back. I didn't have to. I could have continued to do what I wanted, but I realized that I needed something better, and I needed to feel whole. And so my decision to come back was really important to me. In the song it says, "You come too far to give up now." There was times where I wanted to give up. I just rededicated my life December, so that's 6 months ago. There was, like I said, my journey was just going to get harder now that it just started. And when I say it got harder, it got harder. My life completely fell apart. That's the last part of my testimony, I promise. Sorry, it's kind of long. And a few months ago, like I said, just because I'm a reborn Christian, I'm putting, people say, you're reborn again. I'm still going to fall. I'm still going to make mistakes. And so a few months ago, I went to a bar. I didn't go to the bar to go have fun and dance, but there was a fight going on. And so I went to a bar to go watch the fight. Did I indulge in special beverages? Yeah, I did. What ended up happening that night, it was 10 o'clock, it was early. Let me just remind y'all, this happened a few months ago. I rededicated my life a month before that. So, I'm at this bar. I'm at this bar. I'm next to a guy. Pretend this is a guy. I'm next to let's do this. Pretend this is a guy. I'm next to a guy. Something happens and there's a bar fight. Two guys start going at each other. They hit other people and it turns into a brawl. A really big brawl, 8, 9, 10 people just going at it, throwing chairs, throwing pool sticks. The brawl turned into a shooting. We're all getting close together because we're trying to get away from the gunshots. We didn't know where they were coming from. I was this close to the guy, leaned up against him 3 times. 5 inches away from me, the guy right here got shot. And he fell down, and I fell with him. I've never been in that position before. Where a bullet was 5 inches from hitting me. There's a reason they didn't hit me though. There's a reason that all the blood on my clothes was not mine. Spiritually speaking, it was probably God's protecting me. A week later, it's 1:30 in my room. I was with my stepsister. We both went to the bar that night when it happened. A week later, we're asleep, and then you hear it again, boom, 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 right outside our door. And I live in a nice neighborhood. I I live near La Candela. If you know where that's at, in San Antonio, like, it's not a bad neighborhood. But it's the fact that a week later from 5 inches from a bullet hitting me, I hear them again. And so my sister and I are scared and we're trying to figure out what's going on. It turns out there was a shootout between a guy and a cop right outside our door. Literally, there was bullet holes by our door. And I was just like, why? Why? Why am I going through this again? Why is this happening again? And it was just a scary feeling. The crazy part about it, that same week was going to be my 25th birthday. And it was like the devil was trying to take me again. And God said no. But what I'm trying to get at is that I had just rededicated my life. I was on fire for God. But yet this stuff was still happening. But God put me through that to see, hey, you turn to alcohol, you turn to guys, all this stuff. Let's see again, who are you going to turn to now? Now that you've rededicated your life, you talk the talk, you walk the walk, you sing you're all for God now. This bad stuff is happening. Show me who you're going to turn to now. And I turned to him. I turned to God this time. And the crazy thing about it is going through something like that, it can get very traumatizing. You don't want to leave your house. You don't want to go to hang out with anybody. You want to go out to dinner. No, I'm good. You don't want to do anything. Even through all of that, I felt so much peace. And like the other parts of my journey, I said that I was scared to sleep. I was scared to go out. I was scared to get in a car. I was scared to do all of these things. But this time I was no longer scared. This time I knew I had somebody. He was always there. But this time I was able to call on him. And like I said, through all of those things, it's crazy for someone to feel happy. But I was so happy that, you know what, the bullet didn't hit me. I have another day to just keep praising him. I have the opportunity to keep worshiping him, keep sharing his love. That's what those taught me. Not that, oh my gosh, I could have almost died. No, I have the opportunity to share his love. And that's how I saw that. Like it wasn't a, oh my God, something always happened. It was a, now look at this opportunity I have. Let me see. But what I'm trying to, I guess my whole journey is that I was never alone. I just had to call on him. And if I can give any advice to either the youngest person in this room to the oldest, you're never alone. You just have to call on him. You are the one that has to take that initiative because he's always there. Amen. He's never left. And it's our job to call him. Yes. And so I call him every single day. And even when I call him, sometimes I don't hear him. But it's because he's still working in me. And the second time that I heard God's voice was in the makeup aisle at Walmart. And Pastor Rachel called me. And, well, let me backtrack. I was just thinking about my life, thinking about all of these things that I had gone through, but thinking about how happy I was. And Have you ever been in a situation where you just have amazing news and you just want to share it with the world? That was me. I had this journey and I just wanted to share God's love with anyone who would listen. But I was in a new church. I go to church by myself. I don't know anybody. I can't be like, hey, can I like share my testimony really quick? Like, no, that's kind of awkward. And especially being the only Mexican there. I'm Hispanic, but especially being the only Hispanic there, and so I wanted to share it with someone. I didn't know how, I didn't know where, I didn't know to who. But I'm in Walmart in the makeup aisle and Pastor Rachel calls me. She's like, hey, there's been something in my spirit. I really want to share it with you. Can we talk? And I'm like, yeah, sure. I was a little scared, but yeah, sure. Let's talk. And like I'm in the makeup aisle at Walmart. Like I didn't think it was going to be something like serious. I thought it would be serious, but I didn't realize it was going to have the effect on me that it did. But she mentioned the conference and she was like, I really want you to share your testimony. And that was like proof that God was real for me. Not that I needed more proof, but it just kept furthering the idea that He is real for me. I wanted to share it. I didn't know how. Yeah. And then He brings in Pastor Rachel and giving me this opportunity to share what I had been through, what he put me through, and then what He took me out of. And I started crying in Walmart, and because I was just so excited and I was just so grateful that I'd have the opportunity. Even if y'all didn't listen for the past like 4 hours that I've been talking. I'm just kidding. I am my father's That was a good one. Chandler for sure. But even if none of y'all listened, maybe even if all of y'all listened, I still had this opportunity to share what I was feeling. And like I said, I might have not touched anybody. I might have not impacted anybody's life, but even sharing this out loud was what I needed.
Yes.
And I needed to share it with someone, and I'm so grateful for Pastor Rachel and for Victory for just giving me this opportunity to share something. Like I said, I could have been talking to a brick wall, or I could have been talking to all of y'all. But just this opportunity to share what I have been through and to share that God is real. You just have to call on Him. And that's pretty much, if there's any advice I could give you, it's just to call on Him, because He's there no matter what. And that was probably the biggest thing that I learned is oh. I was like, are you gonna get mad at me? But
She's not done.
this whole experience also mended relationships. I'm gonna be honest, like I didn't have the best relationship, like, with, like my stepmom, or even with like my dad. He was always there, but I was very distant, because even now, and not anymore, but before, I was still really angry with him, and really angry that I felt like God had taken him away. But then I realized, no, God was using him, and then I became mad at myself for being angry, because I was being selfish, and like I said, mended relationships, because now I talk to Pastor Rachel like 2-3 times a week, and then my dad, I've always talked to my dad, and then the mended relationships, with Gisette, and I'm just really grateful for what God has done in my life, and I don't know what to say. There was a scripture that really stuck out to me. I ended up getting it tattooed. Sorry, Dad. But anyway. But
it's in her past.
Yes, it was in my past. Yes, thank you. I got it a while back. But anyway, the scripture was Matthew 18:12, and I want to read it to you because if it explains anything that I've been through, it kind of goes with the whole idea of never being alone. And so I kind of wanted to read it so that I can go ahead and close out.
You got a Bible?
So it's Matthew 18. So I can't even find it in the Bible. So what this story? It's the story of the 99 sheep in 18:12. So I'm reading it from the Amplified version because I think it explains it a little bit better the way I want it to. So it's going to be 12 through 14, and it says, "What do you think? If a man has 100 sheep and one of them gets lost, will he not leave the 99 on the mountain and go in search of the one that is lost?" It makes me emotional because once I finish, it's such a beautiful thing to be that lost sheep. And if it turns out that he finds it, I assure you and must solemnly say to you, he rejoices over it more than over the 99 that he did not lose. So it is not the will of your Father who is in heaven that one of these little ones be lost. And that just constantly reminds me that I went away, far, far away, but he still went to go and find, he still brought me back home. And like I said, it's a beautiful thing to have 99 sheep and you leave, but he still is so happy to have you back. Like, I'm like speechless about it because I don't even know how to explain the overwhelming it feels for someone to be so happy that you came back, and so much that they're rejoicing over it and they're celebrating. You know, I just imagine them having a party in heaven, like she's back, and that's just probably one of my favorite scriptures, and it really just describes my life and my journey and of me going away, but he found me again, and he never left my side. He just had to go a couple miles down the road to find me. But I'm really grateful for his love and this opportunity for everything, for all of y'all. Thank y'all for letting me talk. Like I said, I'm still trying to find my calling. I'm still trying to find who I am with him. They said it earlier, this journey is just beginning. I don't know where I will be in a year, in 5 years, but I do know that I never want to get rid of this feeling of him. And I'm going to do my best to just have an overflow of it and just constantly be in this, how do I say it? Constantly be in his love and in his spirit and his presence. And I just encourage everybody to call on him, you know, as, I'm not going to generalize everything, not like as women, but I know for me personally, sometimes we feel alone a lot. But we're not, and he's here for you. You just have to call on him, whether that is through prayer, whether that's even through song. I am constantly listening to praise and worship music because that's where I feel him the most for me. That may be something that look completely different for him, but for me, that's where I feel him the most, and because I want to constantly be in it, that's why I'm constantly listening to music. But like I said, what I didn't want to do, I wanted to end by playing the song so that y'all can hear what it sounded like, kind of go through it all, the motion, and kind of bring this whole journey full circle. But like I said, this is not the end. This is only the beginning, and I'm excited to I'm excited for this army that God is creating, and I'm excited to, march on with all of y'all and keep, fighting the good fight, so to speak. But, if I can go ahead and play the song so that y'all can hear it. You know what, feel free to sing it. This song, like, for me, is very powerful, and I really just like to listen to it on repeat and kind of just like meditate in it and kind of just, this is like me talking to God. This is how I talk to God, is through music. And so, let me go ahead and